And there he is. Hi, Donny.
Hi there. How's it going?
So good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to see your face.
I know. Donny, you and I worked together. I remember I needed you shortly after I lost my dad. And yeah, it was a heavy time in my life, really trying to juggle and balance a lot of things. And I hate to say it became a gift in dealing with so much pain all at once. And I think that's really what's launched me into this world of, wanting the conscious athlete to be something, because I think there's something in all of us that wear this mask, whether it's on TV, on a football field, in a boardroom. And you work with a lot of pro athletes. Before we kind of get into your work, can you tell us a little bit about you? Because you yourself, as a former baseball player, struggled with addiction, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yes. It wasn't when I was a baseball player. It was when the identity of a baseball player was stripped away from me. That's really when it started. But yeah, I grew up my whole life playing athletics and very successful, specifically in baseball, playing all the way up until my senior year in college at Arizona State. I had what was my fifth surgery on my knee. I had 3 surgeries before I graduated high school. My 5th one, my senior year, was a traumatic, just a cadaver transplant of my meniscus. I was the first person in Arizona to ever have this surgery. But the doctor assured me that if all went well, I could possibly even play again, or it'd be like having a new knee. But when I woke up from that surgery, I'll never forget that day. I was in a hospital bed and it was completely dark. I was all alone in there. I had this morphine drip and it would go off. I would be able to use it every 10 minutes. And I just remember looking down at my leg, and I knew baseball was over for me the moment I woke up from that surgery, because of just the massive signs and scars of trauma to the unbearable pain. I knew it was over. And it was from that day and for many years after, that's where my world got turned upside down from a life of addiction. I did a lot of other drugs, but what had its grip on me were specifically prescription drugs, painkillers, Oxycontin, Vicodin, Percocet. I also took a lot of Xanax, Valium. It was just kind of like whatever I could get my hands on. But it was the pills that really had a grip on me. And it wasn't, after a little while, not too long, it wasn't about getting high or getting messed up. It was about feeling normal. I needed them I would have so much fear when I would wake up in the morning and I couldn't even step foot outside my door. And so once I took the pills, it was like, it's kind of like what a deep breath will do for me today is what the pills would do. But the problem was that would last an hour or so. And then the thoughts of when am I going to take the next ones, the anxiety, the fear would start to creep in. And it was just a vicious cycle for years after, until I landed in rehab. And when I got into rehab, it was like, that was the greatest gift for me. It was my first introduction to therapy, having a therapist in rehab. And I'm very transparent about my story because I feel like I have to share my message. And a lot of people in these 12-step programs prefer to stay anonymous. And for me, it's just been very clear to carry the message and share my story. And so going from this athlete, star, baseball player, that identity, to a drug addict for a while really buried me in guilt and shame. But today it's my best asset by far. It's the reason I'm talking to you. It's the reason I get to work with athletes who maybe have had a similar past, guys like Darren Waller, who I do the podcast with, or Tyrann Mathieu, who, they've all been able to turn that past into their greatest strength. And so I wouldn't be where I'm at today without the mess, and specifically for me, without sharing the message of my mess.
And I'm so grateful to you for saying that exact same thing, because it's removing the shame that I have felt has been the hardest thing for me as somebody who's, look, we all had it, right? Like, you were an athlete, I was an athlete. So if I didn't contribute in some way to get a team win, I felt like a failure. And in many respects, that's like kind of synonymous with everything in my life. You have this perfectionist mindset or this athlete mindset, and you become buried by the shame or the guilt of not doing the thing that you thought you were supposed to do. And when you talk so openly about your story, it sort of like rips the Band-Aid off of all of us knowing, oh, well, I can have that too. I don't need to be so afraid of this deep, dark secret or thing that I'm hiding, or this thing that I feel ashamed by. And you're almost like a really great example of somebody, because this is what happens to these athletes or these CEOs or these models or these actors or broadcast hosts, who it's the thing that gets the biggest reaction when I talk about it the most, which is so many of us have this identity attached to who we are or what we do. And then when it goes away, right? An athlete can't be a pro athlete for the rest of their life. A model's looks are going to fade. If they're so deeply attached to that thing that they do, the fallout, like for you, can be catastrophic. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think our society has us married to what we do so deeply?
Well, I think a lot of it is just, conditioning. I think it's a lot of maybe how we were raised. It's coming up. I think it's so important in my coaching work I do with my clients. I have an exercise called Defining Success. And it's really coming up with your own definition of success, because so many people, I think, are unhappy because they're measuring their definition of success up against somebody else's, or what society says, or what our parents said we needed to do in order to be successful. So that's a big piece of it. And I think, if we identify, like I identified as a baseball player, and even doing like deeper work, if you've ever taken the Enneagram test, I'm an achiever. And achievers, I got validation through achieving. So achievers can achieve a lot of things, and there's a lot of positives to that, but there's also the dark side of caring what other people think, people pleasing, the opinions of others, getting validation from outside things. And so, it's the athlete, it's the model, it's the CEO, but it's also the mom, the stay-at-home mom, the empty nester who I work with a lot of that specific scenario where the last kid's about to leave the house and they don't know who they are because they put all their identity in being a mom. But it's these labels, and we have to get beyond that and figure out really, truly what our purpose is and what our natural gifts and talents are. I believe, like, to figure out your purpose, our purpose isn't static. It's not like you create a purpose statement and you live that your whole life. Our purpose is dynamic. It's fluid, but what's consistent are our natural gifts and talents. And to live a life of purpose, I believe all we have to do is figure out what our natural gifts and talents are, and then share them with the world, be of service. And you can do that being of service, and you can do it and make a living off of it also. But unless we're using our natural gifts and talents, I don't think we're really ever going to be truly happy. So it is important to come up with your own definition of success and what that means to you today.
Yeah, you're right. It's a lot of conditioning. It started for me when I was playing sports, and my parents gave me a lot of praise for my performance.
Yep.
So then all I did was transfer making mom and dad proud to making everybody else in my life, my producer, my partner, my friends, my teachers, whatever the story was. I didn't make myself proud. I didn't even know who I was. I didn't even know if I liked myself or not. But if I was getting this external validation, I was money, Yeah.
Oh, it's such a gift. I feel like my past and all the bad decisions I made in my addiction, and even the pain I put my family through and friends through, it's such a gift, because it really just streamlined me and brought me to my knees to figure out my shit in my life and really what matters. And I believe, when we talk about purpose and discovering your purpose, if you break down the word discover, it's discover, to take the cover off of what's been in there all along. So a big piece of the work that I love is just through mindfulness and through awareness practices, it's chipping away at all the stuff that's in the way. Yoga, meditation, this work teaches us that what's in the way is the way, and there is no going around it. I was going around the pain. Yes, I've had 7 surgeries on my knee. At the time I had 5, but I didn't really have physical pain. I was using that to manipulate doctors and to tell everybody else a story and myself a story. But my core wound was the emotional pain. I didn't want to feel the emotional pain of the loss of the love of my life, my identity. Everywhere I got validation was all of a sudden stripped from me. It's like, who am I? How am I going to get validation and be liked by the world now? Yeah. So I was numbing it. And there's other ways other than drugs and alcohol we can numb and distract. We can get on our phones. We can get on Amazon. We can get busy. We can hide in our work. It's a lot of things. And so, but the easier way, even though it feels hard, is to go through it. They say, like, at the center of the wound lies our freedom. So there is no going around it. And even though it might feel good at the time, it's like, it's that temporary Band-Aid, right? Even though it feels hard, if you're in the middle of a storm right now and you feel like it's easier to not face it or numb out in whatever way, just know that the easier, softer way is to still go through it and not around it.
Yeah. No, and I resonate with that. You know, that's why we started working together, was because I was like, I don't want to get on drugs. I don't want to numb out. I don't want to party this away, but I am very sad. I'm very depressed. And I saw Jim Carrey post that depressed is really just your body needing deep rest. So really quickly, I know I want to be respectful of your time, but a couple more questions.
About this stuff all day long.
I love it.
It's all good. Yeah.
And thank you for just like making the time. I love that this is what you do. It is so inspiring for me to witness you hold so much truth and honestly caretake these men that, you know, we see on the gridiron each and every Sunday, and they take hits and they sacrifice their bodies and they become addicted because they're just trying to stay on the football field or the baseball diamond or whatever the respective sport is. Let me ask you this, if you can sum it up, and maybe this is a larger answer that could take longer, but what do you believe, because you work with so many pro athletes, what do you believe the thing the athlete is struggling with the most right now?
I believe it's a lot. Okay, so there's a couple things. I feel like we are all, but athletes have it maybe 10x and magnified because of so many other distractions and social media and Twitter and all of these things, but they struggle with really finding their center, like we all do. But for them, they have, like we all have hundreds of thousands of different things trying to grab our attention. It's the world's demand for the attention of our mind. You have the biggest companies in the world hiring the smartest people in the world to create these algorithms to capture our attention. And so if we don't have tools, techniques, and practices to find our center, and specifically if we're talking about the athletes, you know, you've got all these other distractions. You have people wanting things from them, wanting their money. You have family members wanting their money and trust being broken, and they don't know who to trust. And so to have practices that return them to their center so they can make intentional decisions. And, you know, really creating practices that give you the power of the pause to be able to respond from a place of love and not react in fear. You see it all the time. I mean, it's highlighted on social media when guys make mistakes. It's because of a decision that they made. And sometimes it's just a post. And so that power of the pause, it allows us to make less mistakes, better decisions, and realign our actions with our core values. So I believe this is universal, but athletes, especially because of all the distractions, it's the ability to find our center. But what we practice will grow stronger. And we've gotten really good at practicing being distracted and going busy and trying to check off the next item on the to-do list, like the achieving go, go, go. And so that's what we're in the practice of. So if you don't have practices that get you present, you're going to be just caught up in this whole whirlwind of life. So it's all about the practice. You have to be willing to practice. And if you're in the practice of meditation, and there's so many different types of meditation. I know I struggled so much in the beginning of trying to find meditation, and was I doing it right? And but just whatever it needs to be for you, that's going to drop you into your body. Yeah. So yeah, that's the biggest one. And then the other two parts of that, I would say, and two of my living examples who I'm so proud of, both Darren and Tyron, who it's figuring out your purpose beyond the sport, but proactively. Like figuring that out now. I can tell you right now, like football could end for Tyron or end for Darren whenever it could end this season or tomorrow, and they're going to be fine. Darren's got the podcast. He's got a foundation. He produces music. Like he has a purpose beyond the sport. Tyron, the same thing, his family, his foundation. So it's figuring that out now. You better know who you are beyond the sport, beyond when your last kid's going to leave your house. Because if you don't, like that almost killed me.
I overdosed once. That is the thing that almost killed me. So you better know
who you are, and figuring that out and being proactive is going to really set you free and allow you to live a life of purpose, so that you don't get to the end of your life being afraid to die because you didn't truly live.
Yeah, that's a big one for me, because I was on this hamster wheel of achieving, comparing myself to other women in my industry, and going, God, like, I love what I do. I love connecting with people. I love sharing stories. I love, this like relatability with the athlete, but there was always something sort of missing. And I realize now it's a little bit more of you're only a champion because you win, but you're not a champion because of what you're doing off the court or off the football field. And that always was something that was hard for me. I really deeply wanted to learn who these men were, or women, off their respective, jersey wearing sport. Like, that's why Hard Knocks is so interesting to me. Or the quarterback, like, who are these men with their families? What do they stand for? Who is Darren Waller when he's not playing football? And
I came to him through Hard Knocks. That's how I found him. I was so inspired.
So yes, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I
love that, to see the human side. And it's tough. Like, I feel like in a sense, specifically Darren, want to be his protector in many ways. He's good. He's got the tools. He's got more tools than, I'd say, almost 100% of the NFL as far as spiritual tools and his discipline. But, you see the tweets and you see the stuff, and it's like, we'll record a podcast from like, we recorded it like, 2 months ago, and then it comes out, but like Darren's injured and maybe not playing that week, and it launches that week, and then you get all these tweets that say, get on the field, what are you doing? And it's comical. It's just projection. And many of those people are just, they're living vicariously through other people, and it's not personal.
Yeah.
And that's a superpower.
But it feels for me that way. When Derek Carr was the quarterback, I mean, some of the fans were pretty hard on him. And, he's got a family and he has kids, and the man's trying as hard as he can to win. So, yeah. It's a sport we love. It's a sport that brings people together. There's so many things that are amazing when it comes to sports. I played my whole life, but at the same time, I think there's a bit more to it than just who you are when you're wearing that jersey. So, last question, I promise. What are you doing now, and how can people get in touch? Because I know you not only work one-on-one, you also throw really amazing retreats, right?
Yeah, I've got a retreat coming up in Tulum. I do Tulum usually once or twice a year. My next one is November 11th through the 16th. It's called Transcendence Tulum. It's a
5-night, 6-day wellness retreat that involves yoga, meditation, breath work, lots of personal development, really cool excursions, sweat lodge. We do a cenotes excursion. Tulum is just so cosmic and epic in so many ways, and we do it at a retreat center called Amansala that's right on the beach. It's the food, everything about it is just so turnkey. That's why I keep going back there. Then I do Sedona every Martin Luther King weekend, so that'll be in July. That's a 2-night retreat. Yeah, and then the coaching. My big thing is my coaching program, The Shift. It's a 90-day coaching program that is for the mind, body, and soul, and it's for everybody. This work is for everybody. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be an athlete. I tell you that the work that I do with Darren or Tyron is the exact same work as far as like personal development and coaching. It's the same topic. I'm not working with those guys for their on the field stuff. I'm working with them for their life stuff, so that their preparation and their performance on the field is in the best place, because they're not like bringing shit with them onto their preparation process. So it's all the same work, and it's for everybody. And I really pride myself in inclusivity and wanting my teachings and practices to be accessible to everybody. So yeah, those are the next 2 retreats. I teach some yoga classes here in North County, San Diego, and then the coaching is really my main jam, which, I do want to acknowledge you for diving into the work with me at such a tough time, and really leaning into the grief and the pain, and sitting in that and not going around it. And how cool to see you now, and just to see like the lessons that were learned, and how death can teach us to live and can be a beautiful thing. And if we don't grieve, in a sense, a lot of times we're not keeping that person with us, right? We kind of like push their spirit away, but if we grieve in the proper way, like they're with us every day. And I feel like that's kind of
where you're at, but it's a direct reflection of the work that you were willing to do when things were hard.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, thank you for being there and personally guiding me one-on-one, and also for the permission to tell your story so all of us can be a bit more comfortable in the things that we were uncomfortable with when we were feeling pretty low. So just continue to like shine. You're so deep in the work. You inspire me deeply. I love following you on Instagram. Give Donny a follow, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you at a retreat soon. I really want to go. So
let's go. Right. You know I'll always make space for you. You will add. Selfishly, I would love you there because I know the value that you would add
to the retreat. So open invitation.
Thank you, Donny. All right, you're the best. Thank you for jumping on Conscious Athlete. I'll talk to you soon.
I love you. Take care.
Love you. Bye, guys.